with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Browns at home taking on the New York Jets. What we didn't know was that two of the top quarterbacks taken in this past year's draft were going to square off in this game. Darnold was going to get another road start. We saw what he did the last time he was on the road, helping the Jets destroy the Lions on Monday Night Football. Once again, on the road, primetime matchup. What would Darnold do for an encore? Looked promising early, but one of his bugaboos that we talked about coming into the league reared its ugly head late in the ball game. We'll talk about that when we get to the Jets. But tonight's broadcast is going to be specifically centered around the Browns and Baker Mayfield and what he was able to do coming into the game in relief of Tyrod. Mama named him Tyrod. I'm going to call him Tyrod Taylor. And the Baker Mayfield, I guess we can call it regime, getting underway in Cleveland, because it's this man's job from here on out. No matter if Tyrod Taylor is healthy or not, you don't play the way that he did, lead the comeback the way that he did, and give this team life and hope the way that he did, and then send him back to the bench. It's just not happening. You heard the comments of Hugh Jackson at halftime to Christina Pink. She said, "Do you feel the energy out here?" That's the direct quote from Hugh Jackson. "Do you feel the energy?" After one drive right before the half. That said all I needed to hear in terms of what he thought about Baker Mayfield's presence and what it meant to this football team. And then you got the results on the field to back up what he was feeling in the stands. This had a playoff-type atmosphere tonight. You could tell the Browns fans wanted this one. And I thought Troy Aikman summed it up beautifully before the game started when he pretty much said, when the Browns schedule came out, most Browns fans, if you were realistic, looked at the schedule and said, Pittsburgh at home, it's doable, probably a loss. Saints on the road, week 2, definitely a loss. Week 3, aha! Jets at the crib, Thursday night, circle that one. That's the one we got to get. And so Troy Aikman said it perfectly. That was the one everybody was pinpointing on the calendar. And I said to myself, if you can't beat the Jets at the crib on a Thursday night, you, my friends, don't deserve to win this season again. So, and we knew that that's not going to be the Browns' fate this year. We knew that. Talked about how much better this team was going into the season. We've seen it in the first 3 weeks of the year, even though they only have one win to show for it. This team has played competitive football, easily could be 3-0 right now, should be 2-1 at worst. Instead, they're 1-1-1. But nonetheless, they get the win the first time the Browns have gotten in the left-hand column since Christmas Eve 2016. A team led by Bob Griffin and Isaiah Crowell, who tonight was looking to stick it to his former team, scored 2 touchdowns, the second of which he wiped his ass with the football, which was his way of saying, y'all ain't shit. You're the Browns. And then he threw it into the crowd, said, here, take my shit. You Browns. Yeah, Browns. Your shit. Get it? Browns, shit, crowd, ball. Yeah, okay. Anyway, all of that doesn't matter. So I showed up here purposely a little late because I wanted the Browns fans to just take it in, man. Take it in tonight. Just take it all in. There's a lot to take in. One, you won the game. Celebrate! You won a goddamn game. All right? 2, take in this Baker Mayfield performance because I think it's the first of many to come. It's the first of many games. He's got something special, man. We watched it in college, and I wasn't sure, 100% sure, if it was going to translate to the next level, but I could tell you, watching him on tape, and I talked about this with him coming into the league, I said, if you're watching tape, there's no one at the quarterback positions tape that is cleaner than Baker Mayfield's. But again, I always tell you, take that with a grain of salt because he plays in the Big 12. We know defense is not a priority. As a matter of fact, it's optional in the Big 12. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the man went out and destroyed the competition. And if you want to talk about the Big 12, then you can't talk about that. Excuse goes out the window when you look at the playoff game versus Georgia, because he carved those boys up as well. So the guy has the it factor, and I talk about it. What is it? I don't know. Stop asking. I just know that he has it. And you saw it tonight on full display. And this team with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, they just got really dangerous all of a sudden. And again, I talked about this team winning 8 games this year. With that tie, I don't know if 8, because I had them beating the Steelers and they didn't get that one. I don't know if 8 is going to be the magic number or not. But I'll tell you this much. Beware of the Cleveland Browns. I told you the AFC North will be the toughest division in all of football. I did not stutter, and I'm not going to backtrack on that. I fully expect 3 teams in that division to win double-digit games. If there's a team that doesn't win double-digit games, it might be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why they bullshitting, but it's another topic for another day. So I have one more thing to say before I get into the breakdown of this game. I have an apology to issue, a double O, if you will. I call these double O's. I was wrong about Denzel Ward. I owe the man a sincere apology. He's really good. He's really, really good. I don't know if he's 4th overall good, but damn it, man, he is the real deal. He's physical, which we knew coming out of Ohio State. He was never afraid to tackle, never afraid to mix it up despite his size. But his ability to be around the football, his ability to be physical when he gets there, and his ability to just make plays. He had 2 picks versus the Steelers, forces a fumble, a crucial fumble tonight. Without that fumble, I don't know if you win this game. You were dead in the water at 14-3, and they had just picked up another first down on 3rd down, which was a backbreaker, and he rips the football loose and gives you prime field position. You don't score a touchdown there, but you do get a field goal to cut it to a 1-score game, and it changed the whole complexion of that football game. The Jets were never the same on offense after that fumble, and Denzel Ward is really, really good. So I'm sorry, man. I apologize. I told you, I will be the first to admit when I'm wrong. You'll know when I'm right, because I'm going to tell your ass when I'm right. But I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong, too. I was wrong about Denzel Ward. I didn't think he was worthy of a top 5 selection. I didn't even know if he was worthy of being the first corner selected in the draft. Yet the man is balling out of his brains, and we're only 3 games into the season. I'm sorry, Denzel Ward. That being said, let's jump into this breakdown. Browns get the first win of the season. Hell, their first win in over a calendar year. 21-17 over the New York Jets. Sam Darnold struggled mightily in the second half of this game. Hell, struggled mightily in the first half of this game. He just struggled in general. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield came in, and from the moment he hit the football field, he played confident, poised football. But let's start at the beginning, because this game didn't start with Baker Mayfield jumping in to the huddle and leading this comeback. It started with the Browns struggling on offense with Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod, Mama named him Tyrod. I'm going to call him Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, and he was god-awful in this game. And I was rooting for Tyrod Taylor to succeed in Cleveland. You watch Hard Knocks, you see how hard this guy works, and the amount of effort that he puts in, and the amount of time and study, and you were just hoping that his veteran leadership would help lead this Browns team to some victories, and you were hoping that he'd be able to keep Baker Mayfield on the sideline long enough for this guy to learn some more. But Baker Mayfield is past the mental reps stage, as we saw tonight. The only thing that's going to help this man now at this point, there's no turning back after what we saw tonight. Only thing that's going to help this man is reps in the game. There's no more mental reps to be had. Tyrod Taylor had an opportunity to keep this man at bay. He had 3 weeks to do it, and he was unable to do so. Didn't play well versus Pittsburgh in week 1. But he did rush the football well in that game. Thought he gave them a chance to win last week versus New Orleans. Really wasn't his fault. that they lost that football game. But nonetheless, tonight, this was his fault. He did not play well. And I think some of the bad play was a byproduct of the pressure that he felt because of the stage that was Thursday Night Football with the Jets in town. The first time the Browns have been favored to win a game in God knows how long. And the crowd was raucous. I told you this had a playoff type of atmosphere tonight. I mean, you felt the energy coming through the television if you were watching at home, and it felt different. It felt like a team that expected to win, and they started to boo early after some of the struggles offensively. He did not look accurate at all whatsoever. Missed open receivers, missed a deep ball that I thought was really the final straw that broke the camel's back. I thought he was going to get benched whether he got hurt or not. I think there was a change coming at halftime. He may have had one more possession rate before half to maybe sway Hugh Jackson to keep him in. But I felt like a change was coming at halftime regardless of whether he was healthy or not. And he missed that deep ball. That was the one that I thought was the straw that broke the camel's back. And then he had a nerve to say, hey, up here. No, bruh. How about you lead him 3 more yards up the field, let him run under it like you did against the Saints on 4th down. Don't tell me go up here for it. Don't beg for your man to make a play for you when he had his defender beat by a full 4 yards. Don't tell me to go up and get it. Lead me. Okay? So at that point, he was losing it from a mental standpoint. When you start blaming other guys and you're the quarterback, you're losing it now. And it's your fault. You're losing it. And then you start seeing guys wide open on those out routes towards the boundary, and he's nowhere close. The pressure of the situation just got to him. And they started chanting, "We want Baker." And he heard that, and it got to him, and he wasn't the same guy. And it was time for him to sit down. And the injury made it a lot easier on Hugh Jackson to pull the plug. Meanwhile, the defense started out well in this game, and I thought Colquitt, who just always seems to be one of the better punters every year, did some magnificent punting early on, pinning the Jets deep in their own territory. But the defense did some good things. But the problem with the defense was offense wasn't helping them out, continued to put them on the field, and the Jets finally were able to break through. And my thing is, how many times are you going to get beat with the same goddamn wide receiver screen? That same bubble to Nunwa? How many times are you going to get beat with that same damn play? The same shit. Same formation. Nothing's changed. You line up in the same defense, stacked on that same side, allowing Jermaine Kearse to block the defender that's up to the line of scrimmage and pinning the outside defender that's off the line of scrimmage outside and giving him an easy lane to run up. How many times you get beat with the same tunnel screen, bruh? Damn it, man. So you gave that up a couple of times, set up some rushing opportunities, and they took advantage, and they jump out on top 14-0. And at that point, I'm saying to myself, here we go again. This is some bullshit. You got an opportunity. The NFL gave you a layup here. They said, we're going to make sure that if you don't get off the schneid in week 1, you don't get off the schneid in week 2, we're giving you a prime opportunity to get off the schneid in week 3 on prime time at the crib. And right now, you're currently in the midst of pissing that away 14-0 at home to a rookie quarterback. And I said, God damn it, Browns, you're really going to do it. I picked you twice this week. Not once, but twice to get it done. You're not going to do this to me, are you? They said, nah, man, chill. We got a secret weapon in our back pocket, man. And then it happened. It happened. Baker Mayfield got in the game, had a nice drive to end the first half, led to a field goal. And I'm going to tell you right now, this damn field goal kicker, he may have went 2 of 2 tonight and made all of his extra points. But I'm going to tell you right now, both of those field goals were extra iffy, man. I was hoping it didn't come down to a late field goal. I was like, man, please don't send this young boy out here to attempt a game-time field goal. When you were down 17-14 on that final drive, that ultimately led to the Carlos Hyde touchdown to take the lead, the game-winning score. I was like, please don't send this young man out here. After the blocking it back, I was like, please don't send this young man out here for this field goal, man. I'm telling you, the boy is about to miss. He looked shook, man. I looked him dead in his eyes, and I was like, This man is shook. He ain't no crook, son. He's just a shook one. I was like, don't send this young. He doesn't want any of this, man. No smoke. No smoke. No smoke. Don't send him out there. And they didn't have to. Baker did his thing after the block in the back, hit Jarvis for a chunk of that back, and then they were able to grind it out with I was hoping that they didn't have to make a tough decision. Like, no TDs down here, man. We don't want a TD. We want a TD. Okay? For those of you not understanding the English here, no, we don't want a tough decision, man. We want a touchdown. I was like, are you really going to not get this on third down and have to force you to make a tough decision, man? A TD for a TD to win. What would you have done? I'm asking you guys. We'll get to that later. I'm asking you. I'm posing a question right now. Browns don't get in on that third down run by Carlos Hyde. Say they get stuffed. What do? You got 2 timeouts left. You're just slightly over the 2-minute warning. What do? Do you go for it there? Or do you kick the field goal to tie the game up at 17? I honestly I was thinking about going for it, man. But at that point, if you don't get it, boy, does that put you in a tough bind. Because 1 first down beats you at that point. So, I don't know, man. I'm so glad that it didn't come down to that. Really glad that that didn't happen. But Jarvis Landry, strong game, over 100 yards receiving. Did have a drop, but he made up for it with another tough catch to put him back in a position after the block in the back. He atoned for it with a catch on like 1st and 18. He got 15 of it back. So, strong night by him. A great catch. Beautiful throw by Baker Mayfield over the defender. Landry with strong hands to corral that football down to the 2-yard line. Led to the first touchdown of the night for the Browns. So he was outstanding. That's the kind of leadership that they brought in Jarvis Landry for and paid him all the money to do, is to come in and be a leader by example. He didn't feed into any of the nonsense by Tremaine Johnson after a third down incompletion by Tyrod Taylor, handing him the football. He could have easily slapped it out of his hand and got in his face and maybe have offsetting penalties there. Instead, he's like, man, get out my face, man. And so it's those types of plays. It's that kind of leadership that you're looking for from a guy like that you traded for and then gave a big contract to. And he showed up huge tonight in the win. Carlos Hyde, another big free agent acquisition in the offseason, showing why you guys brought him in. Almost 100-yard effort tonight. 2 scores, including a tough run. The first one, 3 Jet defenders draped all over him, still extends the rock over the goal line to get in. And then a tough run, really untouched, I should say, on the final touchdown to give the Browns the go-ahead score and the win in tonight's game. He was huge in tonight's win as well. So you're starting to see some of these guys that you brought in as veterans to come in and help this team starting to pay dividends for you if you're the Browns. You look at the defense, it's so young on that side of football. They're so much fun to watch on that side of the football. I've already given an apology tonight to Denzel Ward because he's going to be one of the mainstays of that defense. You see Jabril Peppers getting better at the safety position. I never liked that pick, but he's starting to come along. I don't think he's going to be the guy that you want him to be as a punt returner, which is why you saw them take him off of punts tonight. But I think he's starting to develop into that role as a strong presence out there at the safety position. But I'm so impressed with Jannard Avery. I liked him coming out of Memphis. I did not love him. I'm starting to love his game, though, because tonight he showed me a different element. I saw it on tape, though, but I thought they were going to use him more in a pass rusher role. A critical third down, he gets a knockdown, and I'm saying, wow, so they can drop you into coverage and you can play the pass just as well as rush the passer? That's impressive. So you're getting something out of Jannard Avery. I thought Larry Ogunjobi, a guy you drafted 2 years ago, looked like a man-child out there tonight. He was all over the Jets' backfield. So you're seeing young guys start to emerge, make plays, give them some diversity defensively, allows them to do some things. And then, obviously, a guy you got to love if you're a Browns fan, Joe Schobert out there just all over the football field. Had a chance to pick earlier in the game. Didn't miss the second opportunity that he got to make a big play with the interception that, for all intents and purposes, really put the Jets in a tough position, forcing them to use all of their timeouts and get the football back with essentially the entire length of the field to go and no timeouts for which to do so. So you're seeing a lot of these young guys step to the forefront, make plays. There's a smatter of veterans in there to help out, like a TJ Carey, like the other corner that you got, Demarius Randall. There's a smattering of veterans there in there to help, but there's a lot of young guys on that side of the football for this Browns football team that encourages you moving forward, that you think that this is sustainable. They've created now with 8 turnovers in the first it was 8 going into tonight. 2 fumbles last week versus the Saints. 6 turnovers forced in week 1 versus the Steelers. Another 2 tonight. 3 because they picked off Darnold twice and forced a fumble. So you're talking about 11 turnovers forced in the first 3 games. I think that's sustainable for this football team moving forward, because it's not just one guy. It's not just Myles Garrett. It's not just one guy getting to the quarterback or one guy picking off passes. It's a collective effort by these guys. Mitchell with a pick tonight. Schobert with a pick tonight. Schobert had a pick in week 1 versus the Steelers that you thought was going to set them up for a game-winning field goal. You're seeing a lot of guys step up and make plays. And so this Browns defense, which was really good last year, a lot of people didn't know how good they were last year, even better this year. They're going to be a tough team. And they haven't given, if you look at what they've done to this point, they haven't given up a lot. Steelers scored 21. Saints score what? They scored 18 in the win in week 2. And 14 tonight or 17 tonight for the Jets. They're not giving up a lot. They're forcing turnovers. They're getting after the quarterback. They're a team that looks prime and poised to win some ball games and to really upset the dynamic of the AFC conference as a whole. Not saying that they're going to wreck shop and get into the playoff scenario, but this used to be a win for teams at the top of the conference. You used to be able to pad your record by playing the Browns. That no longer is going to be the case. They're going to be a team that's going to force you to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. They've done that already this year, but they're getting close and they're figuring some things out. And now with Baker Mayfield in there making plays, and we'll come back around to Baker Mayfield tonight, as I know a lot of you have a lot to say about him. He's going to change some things. He's going to make this offense that much more dynamic, and a dynamic offense with this defense, the way that they're playing, makes this Browns team a very scary out in 2018. You look at it from the standpoint of the Jets. This is a tough, bitter pill to swallow. You take a 14-0 lead early, and I'm saying to myself, look at the Jets being some road warriors, man. For the second time this year on primetime television, on the road, with a rookie quarterback, the Jets are going to go into somebody's house and wreck shop. I mean, just totally tear some shit up. And they were well on their way early on with that 14-0 lead. But you could tell Darnold wasn't good early on in this game. And even though they got out to the lead, you didn't know if it was sustainable because they couldn't push the football down the field. If they weren't going to be able to run it consistently, which, honestly speaking, they were able to run it consistently tonight, whether it was Crowell or it was Belial Powell. They were able to run the football pretty consistently throughout the night. However, you're going to get a no gain against this defense with guys like Myles Garrett and Ogunjobi and all of those guys out there. You're going to get a no gain, a loss of 1 or 2. That's going to put you behind the down and distance and the sticks. And you're going to have to make plays as a quarterback. And they simply didn't have that from Sam Darnold tonight. And I can take it a step further. When you put him in situations where he's got to make plays, that's where I question what Sam Darnold is right now at this juncture of his career. Because to me, he's better outside of the pocket, off schedule, than he is in the pocket. So I thought the Browns did a really good job of keeping him in the pocket. When he did get out, they didn't allow him to use his legs. They didn't allow him to extend, find someone wide open, which is what he did at SC, which made him a guy that teams looked at as a potential top 10 pick and ultimately coming off the board relatively early to the Jets. I'm not a huge Sam Darnold guy, and I told you that already, and you already know how I feel about Sam Darnold. But they did a really good job of getting it out of his hands quickly. But when pressure's on, I liken him to Derek Carr. I don't think he's scared like Derek Carr is. But I liken him to Derek Carr when the pressure's on and teams start to heat you up. This is a guy that will make mistakes. He made mistakes at USC, and he made some mistakes tonight. He made mistakes last week versus the Dolphins in a very winnable game. You get pressure on Sam Darnold, he will make mistakes. And you saw that tonight. That throw late in the game, that pick by Joe Schobert, that you can't throw that football. You got 3 timeouts. You just made a beautiful play on 4th down, which I didn't agree with. In that situation, you've got to punt the football. You've got 3 timeouts. What are you thinking? Got away with it. Great catch by Jermaine Kearse to extend the drive. But what are you thinking there, bruh? If you don't complete that, they got the football at your 27, let's call it, and it's probably even closer than that. And at that point, they're already in field goal range. Now you're making it a touchdown game. I don't like the logic there. I think in that situation, you punt it. You hope that you're able to get 3 and out, which you were able to do after the interception. And then you hope you get some solid field position. And with 52 seconds and no timeouts from your own 39, you're hoping that you can get into a situation where you can at least have a shot or 2 at the end zone or potentially score the touchdown to win the game. But you can't go for it there. But it didn't matter. They converted. And then on the play after that, he throws a pick because pressure was in his face. And that's what Sam Darnold is for me right now. But tell you this much. The Jets, with that defense that's going to fly around, I love Todd Bowles, and I love their defense, and I love what Todd Bowles does with an aggressive defense. Early in this game, part of the reason Tyrod Taylor was struggling, they were coming after his ass. They were heating his ass up. And I'm going to take it a step further. A huge addition is Avery Williamson. Man, was he all over the field tonight or what? And this goes back to week 1 where he was all over the field versus the Lions. He's a huge addition to that defense. And it's guys like him that allow Todd Bowles to be uber aggressive on defense. Also, the cornerbacks allow for you to be really aggressive because those guys are the ones that have to hold up on the back end when you're sending 6 and 7 defenders and it's a 0 blitz and there's no safety help, or there's a single high safety and you're coming with 6 guys and everybody's manned up across the board. You got to have Tremaine Johnson hold it down. You got to have Morris Claiborne hold it down. Buster Screen hold it down. Perry Nickerson hold it down. You got to have these guys hold it down. But Avery Williamson is the guy that makes that defense go. He was outstanding tonight. And it was the defense that really gave him a chance to win tonight, really, because the offense didn't have it going, but the defense really was able to get the Browns off the field, force a lot of 3 and outs, get the football back to the offense, and eventually things started to click for the Jets on the offensive side of the football early as they were able to jump out to a 14-0 lead. You'd like to think that with the Jets defense and a rookie quarterback coming in Baker Mayfield, that they would be able to hold on to a 14-3 lead, but they were not able to do that. Really, it was 14-0 when Mayfield came into the game. So you'd like to think that they could hold on to a 14-point lead. They were unable to do that tonight, but you can't stop at 14. 14 doesn't win you anything in this league. And so they needed more points from the offense, and they just simply didn't get it tonight. The run game was there. The run game was good enough to supplement a solid pass game, and that would have been enough to win tonight. Problem was Sam Darnold just wasn't very good in the pass game tonight, and because of that, the run game was pretty much standing alone by itself trying to carry this Jets offense, and that's just not enough in today's NFL. If you run the football extremely well, good for you, but we all know points come through the passing game. Even if you don't get in the end zone with an actual pass, a lot of times the passes would actually got you down there. See the Browns tonight. I mean, their 2 rushing touchdowns were their lone touchdowns of the game from a passing standpoint or from a rushing standpoint. But guess what? Both of those touchdowns were gained via the air. Okay? They were passes that got them down there and then capped off by Hyde getting into the end zone on the ground. But you're going to score in this league by being able to throw the football. And once the Browns turned that faucet off and stopped allowing the Jets, and really they never stopped giving up the damn tunnel screen, but once they finally were able to shut off, the tunnel screens and some of the off-schedule things that Darnold was trying to do, then they were able to get to the Jets offensively, get them off the field, create some turnovers, some shorter fields for that offense, and they were able to win this football game where the Cleveland Browns. And also, big ups to their punter, Colquitt, for an outstanding night. We don't acknowledge the punter very often, but when you do some of the things he was able to do, for instance, how many punters do we know that punts the football from the other team's 35-yard line and booms it into the end zone, or it's fair caught at the 12-yard line? Like, nothing infuriates me more than a net punt of 18 yards. You know, when they get the touchback or they fair catch it at the 18-yard line. Like, bruh, we could have went for it if you were going to do that. What are you doing? This man pinned them consistently on the night inside the 15-yard line. Had a punt go out of bounds at the 12 because he coffin kicked it. Had a punt down at the 2. Had a punt down late in the game when the Jets had to have it. What did he do? Down punt at the 6-yard line. The man was outstanding tonight. So give him credit as well. Let's get to your comments tonight and see what you guys have to say. Baker Mayfield leads this team back to victory 21-17. So, see what we got. Atlas says, how impressed have you been with Johnny Manziel and Justin Gilbert 2.0 so far? Obviously, Baker Mayfield getting his first playing opportunity tonight. He's going to get his first start next week versus the Raiders on the road, which is a very winnable game for the Browns as well. And his Justin Gilbert comparison, obviously that draft where they had 2 first-round picks and selected Manziel and Gilbert, he's comparing it to this past year's draft of Mayfield and Ward. I already apologized to Ward, so you know how I feel like he's playing right now. You can't deny what you saw from Baker Mayfield tonight. Obviously, it's very early, but both of those guys look like they're well worth the selections in the 2018 NFL first round. Sean Mack says this is a start to a 3-game winning streak. He called that this team would start 0-2. He was wrong about that. They started 0-1-1, but he said they were going to win 3 straight games. This was the first of those 3 that he predicted they would win. Good for Sean Mack, man. I'm happy for you and your Browns getting this win and getting off the schneid. Now let's see if you can go out and expect to win. You know, you saw the relief by the coaching staff, how excited and pumped they were for the dub. Now let's see if you can actually start to instill a winning culture in Cleveland and expect to go into games and win and not hoping to win football games. Jay Moose says, Joe Thomas looks like he could have, like he had 5 years left in him. He could have played if he wanted to. He was just done mentally. He had been through the rigor with this team and the ringer, excuse me, with this team. And, you know, a lot of guys, when they retire, they'll tell you, especially the ones that retire a year or 2 or 3 early, they'll tell you, I could have still played. Brett Favre could have still played. It's just that you don't want to go through all of the off-season camps and, you know, the practicing and the training camps and the mini camp. You don't want to go through all of that stuff. You know, that's the stuff that you're like, I can do it. I want to show up and play on Sunday. You tell me I don't have to do all the other stuff and I can just show up and play. Those guys would have played until they were 50. Joe Thomas strikes me as a guy that was like, look, I could have come back and played if I wanted to, but I just don't want to go through all of the things that entail being a great player. I just don't feel like doing it anymore. Putting my body through what I have to put it through to get back. I'm coming off of a major injury for the first time in my life. All of the things that I would have to go through to get back into the shape and be the player that I once was, I just don't feel like doing it. And yeah, he probably could have played if he wanted to, but he's already a Hall of Fame player. He didn't have anything else to prove. So John Perez says, saw the second half of that game. I got off of work. Fun game. Great performance by Mayfield. # celebrate Browns fans. It was a hell of a second half by Baker Mayfield and this Browns team making plays. Sean Mack says the crowd threw that second Kroll TD ball back onto the field, as they should have. You're not going to disrespect us by wiping your ass with the football, throwing it into the crowd, and somebody keeps that. You got to throw that shit back like you at Wrigley Field. That ball has to come back onto the field. Good for them. We don't want that shit. Jay Camman says, I wanted to let you know that I did send my winners and losers picks. I'll take a look at it and see if I'll accept it. I did see your email, though. I'll take a look at it when I get off of this stream. He also says, I feel really bad for Tyrod. This wasn't a normal Tyrod game. This was one of his worst performances, and now he probably lost his job. I, too, was a little disappointed by this performance. 1, and 2, the fact that he's probably not going to see the field again in a starting capacity unless something were to happen to Baker Mayfield, which none of us want to see. You hate to see a guy lose his job due to injury, but he was trending in that direction. And really, his leash was short anyway. His leash was going to be extremely short because Baker had a strong camp. They drafted this man #1 overall, and generally in today's NFL, this isn't like 10 years ago or 15 years ago where Carson Palmer is selected #1 overall and sits behind John Kitna for an entire season. That doesn't happen in today's NFL anymore. You draft a guy in the first round, you fully expect that guy to play in his rookie season. There are the exceptions to the rule, i.e. Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. They have no intentions of playing him in his rookie season, but he wasn't drafted #1 overall. He wasn't drafted with a top 10 pick. Josh Rosen is going to see the field in Arizona at some point this season. You know, they're not going to be good in Arizona. He's going to see the field. And as Troy Aikman said, in the instances where we saw guys wait like Aaron Rodgers, you know, in Green Bay, there were Hall of Fame guys in front of them. There were guys that were submitted in their place. That's not the case in Cleveland. You know, Tyrod was on a short leash coming in. He had to play well. We expected him to play well, and he didn't play well tonight. And this was the game they had to have. And with the start to the game that he had, he was trending in the wrong direction. They were going to sit him down, and it's unfortunate because I was rooting for him. And I knew you're a Bills fan, so you wanted to see Tyrod do well also, and it just didn't happen. Jay Camman says, when the score was 14-14, I thought it was going to be another tie. I never for 1 second thought this game was going to end in a tie. Never. I said someone's going to win this game. And I felt like it was going to be Cleveland. I really did. I picked them to win because I was confident that they were better than the Jets. As constituted, they're a better football team, and they proved it. It took them a while to wake the hell up. It took a quarterback change for them to wake the hell up, but they figured it out, and they got the win, and they were the better team. Jay Camman says, Tyrod is still the captain of the Browns. Yes and no. He's still a veteran presence, but it's hard to be a leader when you're not playing. Ask any player, they'll tell you. Hard to listen to a guy that's not getting snaps. You don't really want to hear from a guy that's on the bench. You know, Josh McCown is a leader of that Jets football team because they're so young, and he's been in this league for an eternity. I mean, he's been in the league longer than some of these guys have been playing football in their lives. That's how long he's been around. So he has the chops to not play a snap this year, but still be the voice that leads the Jets football team. It's not the case with Tyrod Taylor. You know, you just got there. You have to be on the field to really be able to lead these guys. His voice will resonate, but it's not the same if you're not playing. J. Camman says, Baker Mayfield was the QB I wanted the Bills to pick, and he showed tonight just how one player could change the entire dynamic of an entire team. Absolutely. We've talked about the quarterback position and why it's probably the most important position in all of major sports, not just in football, but all of the major sports in the U.S. The quarterback position is the biggest position in all of sports. Why? Because one guy can make the other 10 guys around him better. Because one guy can make the other 21 guys that are on the field better. Because one guy can take a team, put them on his back, and take them to victory. No other position in football can you say that about. No other position can you say that about in sports, maybe other than a pitcher, and they still need the support of their hitters to score a run. They could go out, pitch a no-hitter and a shutout, and still lose the game. In football, if you go out and you play a perfect game, chances are you're going to win, even if you have to do it 41-38. You're probably going to win the game. We've seen Aaron Rodgers do it with no defense from which to speak of in Green Bay, yet they still find a way to win the game. We've seen it happen. So that's the importance of one guy at the quarterback position. You get it wrong, it sets your franchise back. No other position do we say, you get this wrong, it's going to set your franchise back 5 years. We don't say that about pass rushers. We don't say that about corners. We don't say that about left tackles. We say that about the quarterback position because it's so important. You get it right, and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're the Green Bay Packers. You're the New England Patriots. You're one of these franchises that has a chance to be in the playoffs every single year. I call them triple Ps, perennial playoff participants. You got a chance to be one of those and a chance to hoist multiple Lombardis. You get it right. You get a Hall of Fame quarterback, you got a chance to be really good for a long time. You get it wrong, and you're the Cleveland Browns. You get it wrong, and you're the Washington Redskins. You get it wrong, and you're one of these franchises like the Dallas Cowboys that's been meddling, that's been switching out quarterbacks like we switch underwears. Every single year or every other year, you're finding yourself with a new starting quarterback. You don't get it right, and you find yourself in a quandary. And you're one of those teams that over the last 20 years has had the most starting quarterbacks. So Browns may have gotten it right. It's one game, but he looked damn good. So did Ryan Leaf in his first game as Chargers quarterback. So let's not go overboard. But I do think Baker Mayfield is going to be good, just for the record. J. Camman says, I know the league isn't fixed. I hate when people suggest that it is, but I got to admit, pretty crazy that Mayfield has a heroic win on national television, makes for good TV, good scheduling. The NFL knew what they were doing when they set this game up. Now, they couldn't have known that Tyrod Taylor would struggle, get injured, and Mayfield would come in and save the day. But when they put this game on television, the thought process was both of these teams selected a quarterback in the top 5 of the draft. We're hoping that both of those young quarterbacks start the season off as their team starter, and this is a matchup between the number 1 overall pick and the number 3 overall pick in the draft, and we can talk this game up about the 2 rookie quarterbacks starting and the head-to-head matchup with these 2 young quarterbacks. That was the thought process when they put this game on Thursday Night Football. It didn't happen that way initially, but it ended up being that way, and the NFL, they knew what they were doing. Sanchez 11 says, I didn't watch the fight yet. I'm going to watch it on Saturday when it comes on the Encore. I can't wait to watch because I've heard from multiple people that Triple G didn't, or Canelo didn't win the fight, that it was a draw, more so a draw than it was the first time around, which I thought Triple G won the first fight. And then I'm hearing some people say, no, Canelo actually won this fight. He landed the cleaner punches. So I'll be the judge myself, and I'll be able to tell you how I feel about that come next week or the next time that I do one of these telecasts, which will be Sunday night. I'll be able to tell you then because I would have watched the fight by then. And then the Vontae Davis thing, I'll probably save that for my podcast. But that's so rare. It's so crazy of a situation. That's just crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, JCamman99 says, really looking forward to these live feeds each week and being a part of this football community. I appreciate all that you do for making that happen. Hey, I appreciate you guys joining me here every week, chopping it up with me, and talking football, because that's why we're here. We all love the game of football. I'm just a facilitator. That's it. I just bring you guys all to one spot to talk about the game that we love. But that's all I am, is a facilitator, man. I appreciate you guys checking me out, though, and supporting the movement that is the Louie T Network. Dre True Statement says, tried to tell everybody Baker is the right pick, dog. And right now, Baker looks to be the right pick. I don't know if anybody was ever doubting that pick. I think we were all more surprised that he was the pick. I was just hoping it wasn't Sam Darnold. You know, that was the one guy that I said I'm not sold on. Even Josh Allen, who a lot of people think is going to stink and be the next coming of Blake Bortles or Jay Cutler, you fill in the blank with a big, talented, cannon-armed quarterback. Excuse me. I even thought that Josh Allen, if put in the right situation, would succeed. I think Buffalo is a really bad spot for any. If Baker Mayfield were in Buffalo, they would still be struggling right now. There's no talent on that football team. There's nothing there. There's nothing in Buffalo other than Shady McCoy. The fact that they thought they could win with a roster with the likes of Kelvin Benjamin, who looks like he is 20 pounds overweight, who continuously drops the football and isn't the guy that he was in his rookie season in Carolina, which unfortunately has been his best season of his career to this point. And Zay Jones, who just, I don't know if Zay Jones is even a viable number 2 at this point. I thought he would make the perfect 2 when he came out of East Carolina. I said, this guy's going to be a quintessential 2. And maybe if you get a legit number 1, Zay Jones will come alive and actually be a legit number 2 in this league. But even he looks sketchy right now. They have nothing out there. Nothing. Nothing that would help a young quarterback. So it's rough. It's rough. So, you know, Baker has so many weapons around him. This is a young team that was constructed well. And so he's coming into a situation that's very conducive for a young quarterback to succeed. Atlas says, you do the Philly special, of course. It's funny because Aikman couldn't even get the name right. He called it the Philly. He said, oh, I guess this is called the Cleveland. No, Troy. It's not called the Philly, and this isn't called the Cleveland. It's the Philly special. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Baker Mayfield ran that exact same play. And that's all they did. They didn't take this from the Eagles. They took this from Oklahoma. Remember, he ran that same play for a touchdown right before halftime versus Georgia in the playoff game, if your memory serves you correct. I remember it like it was yesterday. They ran that exact same play. He caught the touchdown in the exact same spot, but the opposite side of the field because the person throwing him the football was right-handed, not left-handed. So it was the same exact play he ran at Oklahoma, and they just put it into their playbook. So it was gorgeous, and it was well executed, and it was a touchdown. Dre True Statement says, how about Ogunjobi? He's going to be special, and that defense is going to be scary. I talked about it already. Larry Ogunjobi was a man possessed out there, and I talked about this defense. I talked about it on my podcast. How I thought that this Browns defense after week number 1, I told you, and I rattled off about 7 or 8 names, and I said, you got to watch out for this Browns defense. They're going to be legit this year. And Ogunjobi, I don't even know if I named him, and you saw him playing tonight. Daddy Smoke Yams, I said the same thing to myself when I was doing the artwork for this video. I said, I've never seen a team start 1-1-1 before in my life, ever. Never seen a team 1-1-1. But then that kind of goes back to the NFL. I don't know if since the merger, since the Super Bowl era, if we've ever had a tie the first 2 weeks of the season back-to-back like we did this year. I can't remember it. I can't even remember a tie this early in the season. Generally, ties happen like week 7, week number 9, week 11. Generally, you don't see them in week 1 or 2. So it's rare that a team doesn't already have 3 or 4 games under their belt, and you get the rare 1-1-1. But that's what we got with the Browns. It's crazy. I laughed and I said the same thing, man. That's a good observation, though, by you. FBG Tony says, Browns D looks tough as F. He says, Baker looks solid too. I like this team. He said, the Jets play well, but they must finish games. Simple. I think that the Jets are going to be scary defensively. They can turn you over. They can pressure the quarterback. That's what a Todd Bowles defense is. It's a pressure defense. And you saw that again tonight. They got after Tyrod Taylor, made him uncomfortable. And he started missing throws, and he was errant. And that's what this Jets defense is all about. But in order to win games, they're going to have to be a little bit more productive on the offensive side of the football. And it starts with Sam Darnold. And he's young. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to miss throws. Those things happen when you got a young guy in there. That's why I'm so amazed at what Patrick Mahomes has been able to do, because I'm waiting for this guy to make mistakes. I'm waiting for him to make some errant throws, miss some guys that are open. And he's just not. He's just not. So eventually I think he will, but right now he's just not. You don't see young guys come in and just be flawless, and that's what's been so impressive. Even when Deshaun Watson was tearing the league a new asshole last year, when he was on that tear before the injury, he was still turning the football over. Like most people forget. Yeah, he threw 19 touchdowns. He also had like 7 interceptions. Like, he was still turning the football over. Patrick Mahomes is not turning the ball over. It's crazy. Daddy Smoke Yam says, John Dorsey has job security for the next decade. We thought that in Kansas City with the roster that he constructed, and he got fired. They said that in Kansas City he was unorganized. And once his right-hand man, Chris Ballard, got the GM job in Indianapolis, it turned into a shit show in Kansas City. They were unorganized. And you kind of saw it with some of the moves that they made, how they told Jeremy Maclin they were going to release him. And it kind of looked like he was unorganized. So we'll see if some things like that happen in Cleveland. But one thing I can say about John Dorsey, and being that he comes from Green Bay, it makes sense. The guy has an eye for talent. That's one. I don't know how organized or unorganized he is. I can tell you this much. The guy knows how to identify talent as an evaluator. He can look and say, hey, this guy can play at a very high level in this league. He did it in Kansas City. He did it in Green Bay. He's doing it now in Cleveland. It was on a much smaller scale because he wasn't the GM in Green Bay, but they do it right up there in Green Bay. So if you're learning from those guys, you know, the Wolves of the world and those guys over there in Green Bay, if you're learning from them, then you're probably going to be pretty successful wherever else you go. So Dorsey looks good right now with what he's done. Dominic Garland says Baker showed why he was drafted ahead of Darnold. Like I said, Baker and Mayfield. My number one was Josh Rosen. All right, going into the draft, my number two was Baker Mayfield. My number three was Josh Allen. I really like Josh Allen though. But Mayfield's tape was the cleanest. But I said, if you protect Josh Rosen, he'll carve up NFL defenses. The only thing that Mayfield has that a guy like Rosen does it is escapability and the ability to extend plays and make things happen. And we saw it on the play to Duke Johnson on the sidelines where he goes up, bounces into a player, bounces back, gets outside, escapes, and then finds Duke Johnson on the sideline. Did the same thing on the throw to Orson Charles, and he just dropped the damn football. That's what Baker Mayfield brings to the table. There's a little bit of, and again, that's that it factor. That's that it, where he just makes things happen. John Perez says, if Hugh even thinks about putting Tyrod back in, he's not going to do it. Mayfield is the guy in Cleveland now, and I think he cemented that with the win tonight. J. Camman says, even though I picked the Browns, I regretted it because I thought Darnold was going to get his draft day revenge in this game against the Browns. But nope, Browns picked the right QB, question mark. Yeah, they got the right guy. Like I said, I'm not a Darnold fan, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I think they got the right guy for sure. John Perez says, the Browns are in second place in the division, and the Steelers are in last. Hashtag let that sink in. Yeah, it's been a really rough go of it for the Steelers this year. They'll snap out of it eventually. That's the thought process when you're the Steelers and you're a good team year in, year out, is that they'll flip the switch. They'll win 9 straight at some point this year, and they'll contend for the division. But they got to win. They got to get a win first, and it's not going to be easy. That's why, picking wins and losses before the season starts is, as I call it, an exercise in futility, because who in the hell thought Week 3 Monday night game versus Tampa Bay was going to be such a tough one for the Steelers? But all of a sudden now, the Buccaneers are Dragon Slayers, and they're beating everybody, and they're scoring points. Look out. The Steelers could easily be 2-1 after Monday night if they're not careful. So, yep, it's crazy. John Perez says, are you ready to start believing in Antonio Callaway yet? He was fantastic, and so was Landry. Antonio Callaway was solid. He had a big drop. He got open on the deep ball, and Tyrod missed him. Should have been a touchdown or at least a huge gain deep into Jets territory. But he dropped the deep ball over the shoulder, beautifully thrown football by Baker Mayfield. It was a great route because he gave Mayfield plenty of real estate to drop it over the outside shoulder. So he did a great job of that red line, that imaginary line that coaches teach you to straddle as a receiver, that imaginary red line that gives the quarterback ample space to drop it over your outside shoulder. Beautiful route by Callaway. Gotta catch the damn football, bro. Hit him right in his damn hands, right through the wickets. So he was solid. He wasn't great tonight. But I think Antonio Callaway is a playmaker. He was at Florida when he was on the field. He's shown it in this young season. Even if you go back to the preseason against the Giants, where he takes a slant and just murks. Guy's got potential to be a difference maker. He's just got to keep. We saw the playmate last week versus the Saints. Guy's got huge playmaking ability. He can be the new Deshaun Jackson if he's screwed on tight up here. He can be the new Deshaun Jackson. Appreciate the super chat, BK Soldier. He says, Brown still ain't won on a Sunday since 2015. Why you got to do that tonight? Huh? Why you got to do that tonight, BK? This is a night for celebration. This is good vibes, man. They feel good about themselves, and you got to remind them that they haven't won on a Sunday since 2015. Well, why you got to go and do that, love, huh? Now, why you got to go and do that and do that? Let them live tonight, man. They got cases of Bud Light around in random bars that had locks on them that are unlocked, that are free. 200 in each cooler. Let them enjoy themselves tonight, man. God damn. Anyway, where we at? We're approaching the hour mark, which is time to get the hell out of Dodge. So, let's see. Take a couple more. And we'll get the hell out of Dodge. See, I'm trying to go back up to where we stopped. See, I'm going to just pick out a couple more comments. We're going to scroll through, pick out a couple that I like, and get out of here. Jake Hamman says, technically, Tyrod gets credited with the win as he was the starter. That's fact. He definitely does get credited with the win. Daddy Smoke Yam says, how come your scoreboard always says 28-28? Yeah, that's the default. It's just supposed to be tied. That's overtime. It's the theme. That's kind of the point. It's tied, so you got to go to overtime, which is what this show is called. So, yeah, that's why it's 28-28 all the time, because it's tied. But yes, that's the default. Simplex says, how many W's do you think the Browns can get this year now? And do you think Tyrod has lost his job in Cleveland for good? Yes. To answer your latter question and your former question, how many wins? I think about 7. I had him getting 8 before the season started, 8-8. And now I see him getting 7 because I had him beating the Steelers. They didn't beat the Steelers. So 7, 8-1 seems right about where they'll be this year, but you never know. You know, maybe the Steelers aren't that good, and maybe they can get them. Maybe they sneak the Ravens. Maybe they sneak the Bengals. Maybe they're able to win a game or two that we didn't anticipate, and all of a sudden now this is an 8-9 win team. I don't see that happening. I still see them as a 7, 8-1 team now. They were 8-8 before the season started. They're 7, 8-1 now in my book. Rodney Ray says, we're all Browns fans today. Not exactly. Everyone wanted to see them win, though. Look, I didn't have a dog in the fight. I picked the Browns on both of my pick-em pool sheets, and I picked them for the winners and losers league. I couldn't afford a loss here. That's essentially what it boiled down to is, look, I picked you bastards to win. Get the job done. Don't piss me off. And they did. So good for them. Dre True Statement says, if Tyrod is cleared to come back and play, do you think he continues to start over Baker? Or was this the writing on the wall, or is it too early to tell? This, to me, was the changing of the guard tonight. The baton was passed when Baker Mayfield came in and won this game. Had they lost this game and Baker come in and struggled, remember that Eagles' third preseason game where neither quarterback looked all that sharp? You know, Mayfield got in early because Tyrod got injured with the hand, and he came in and he didn't look all that sharp. If that's what we saw tonight, then Tyrod's job would have still been his when he came back from injury. But because Baker came in, he played well. What he's effectively done is he's given this team hope. He has instilled confidence in this team that with him in the game, they can beat anybody. They didn't have that with Tyrod Taylor, and they're not going to get that with him. And so you want to lose this locker room, you go back to Tyrod Taylor. You want these guys to feel like they've got a shot to win next week on the road versus Oakland. You start Baker Mayfield. That's what they're going to do. And barring injury, that's what I think they're going to continue to do for the remainder of the season. $32 J-Lock says, been a rough 2 years. Finally, there's a reason for hope for Browns fans. I think that's a perfect way to wrap this one up. The Browns have hope now. And it all resides the quarterback position on the right arm and the two legs of number 6, Baker Mayfield. If he stays healthy and he continues to progress, the Browns may have themselves a quarterback, one that they don't have to bury in the quarterback cemetery that has been the Browns' quarterback situation. They might actually have a guy that can lead them into the new generation, because at some point, Ben Roethlisberger is going to retire, and someone's got to take over that division. You know, Andy Dalton, is it going to be him in the Bengals? Maybe. I don't think it's going to be, you know, the Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore Ravens. Why not the Cleveland Browns? They're young, they're talented, they're hungry, and they've got a ton of talent that's going to help them win ball games for years to come. They get it right at the quarterback position. Look out for the Cleveland Browns. So there is hope. And I've always said, the most dangerous thing you can give a man is hope. Browns have that. They look like they could be a dangerous team for the remainder of the 2018 season. They get their first win since December 24th of 2016 with a 21-17 win over the New York Jets, who jumped out to a 14-0 lead before giving up 14 unanswered points to allow this game to be tied, and ultimately allowing the Jets to score the final 21 out of 24 points in this game to come back from behind and win 21-17. Jets fall to 1-2 on the season with this loss after winning in impressive fashion in Week 1 on the road versus the Lions. They've dropped 2 straight, have the Jets. Meanwhile, the Browns continued to get better. They tied the Steelers in Week 1 with a very sloppy performance. They had the Saints on the ropes and should have won the game last week. They get the win this week with Baker Mayfield taking over late in the second quarter for injured quarterback Tyrod Taylor, who probably has seen his job go up in smoke and now is going to have to watch from the sidelines as Baker Mayfield's journey in Cleveland begins with a win and come from behind fashion, 21-17 over the Jets. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I thank each and every single one of you for joining me tonight on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Browns get the win. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. Continue to support me via the podcast, Louie T Network podcast. Continue to support the website, louietnetwork.net. Continue to play in the weekly pick'em pool. Make sure you get your picks in on time for winners and losers if you're in the league. Also, the Survivor Pool, you guys have done a great job with that. Continue to support all the way around. Thank you, guys. Can't thank you enough. Guys, take it easy. Have a good one. See you next time. Louie T.